Any tour of my shop has to start right here on the basement stairs. This is the least favorite feature of my shop because I can only get an 8-foot board down here. Maybe 9 if I'm careful. Quick walk through my wife's sewing room and we get to the main entryway to my shop. But before we go in, on the right under the stairs is my dust collector. Everyone worries that the airflow won't work and it'll get air starved, except the stairs are open on the back into the unfinished part of the basement, so there's plenty of airflow. Inside the shop, everything's organized. Wood storage over on the left, tools along the back wall. The few power tools that I have are on the right. Been working to build more wood storage, same as everybody. Recently added this shelf for the shorter pieces that I'm still keeping a hand on. Only use this miter saw for raw breakdown of wood. It's really useful when I have a lot of stuff to rough cut. Tool storage is pretty normal. I recently lifted my low Roman bench up on these sawhorses in order to have a second high bench. I found that it was mostly storage, and having it at the same height as the main bench is really helpful. This cabinet holds all the tools that I use the most, with the exception, of course, of the chisels and saws and everything that live on the bench. In the middle of a whole bunch of projects right now, I need to clean up again. Sharpening and grinding is right behind the main position on my bench, so there's no excuses and it's really easy to get to. I recently moved my sharpening plates over to the new high bench, and I'll be installing my metals working vise over here in the empty spot on the grinder bench. My router table does not get used as a router table. I don't think I've even spun it up since I moved into this shop, but it works really well as an assembly table and staging area. This Craigslist drill press I use every once in a while. I did have to replace the arbor and the chuck because the arbor it came with someone had dropped and it was dinged up and it had far too much run out. The lines from my dust collector run up through the ceiling and come down to planer, little tiny 10-inch bandsaw and my 18-inch bandsaw that I use for ripping and resawing. This is my most used power tool and the one that I am the most happy to have. Cabinets on the back have shelves and storage. This is technically the unfinished part of the basement back here, but nothing that's in there is gonna suffer from being unconditioned. Here's a look at everything from this side of the shop. The tools I use most are definitely my 3 joinery saws that I got from Bad Axe. I really like these. The one I use most is the 14-inch bayonet saw. And the D9 tenon saw is right behind that. I use the dovetail saw every once in a while for small things. I got it first, but it was also supplementing some less good vintage saws that I had to start with. I love these saws, and I use them all the time. I have a full set of chisels from Veritas, but my 2 favorite chisels are both antique. I've got about 1.25 inch wide chisel, and even better, a 2.5 inch wide chisel from Ohio Tools. Both of these I got at MWTCA Collectors Meets. When you're working on things, sometimes a really long wide chisel is easier than anything else for keeping things nice and straight. This gooseneck lamp I use all the time in order to get task lighting exactly where I want. I keep meaning to put a second one on my bench, but I've never quite gotten around to it. Other than that, the tools that live on my bench change based on what I'm using. As you can see, I have spaces for marking gauges and a shelf below for winding sticks, my turning saw, things like that. I cannot stress enough how wonderful and useful holdfasts are. I think that the old ways are vastly underappreciated these days. I use my holdfasts even more than my vices, although I use this wonderful Hovarder vise a lot. It has a St. Peter's cross so that it's a quick, easy to adjust vise that will adjust to any size of work without changing a pin board. The twin turbo vise here on the end is the most recent vise that I've installed. I use it every once in a while for big things, but I'm still getting used to it because it's one of the newest additions to the shop. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this short shop tour. Can't wait to see yours.